If you're a visionary, you may sometimes feel cursed rather than gifted. Seeing things that others don't see can be frustrating, especially when people are unwilling to join you on your quest to bring change to the world. I call this the dilemma of a frustrated visionary. But what if there was a way to harness that passion and vision in such a way that fuels people into action without burning them out along the way? I believe that there is a way. Often, visionaries are seen as heroes. They think and see differently. Their intuition is often contrary to what most might consider good judgment. They're disruptive to the status quo. However, when their views are proven to be accurate, they're applauded as geniuses. Then their vision and passion become flames that inspire movements of change. But if they're left unchecked, these very same flames can also burn people out. Then the dark side of the visionary emerges. Because of their stubborn conviction, they may sometimes be considered condescending bullies as they drive hard against objections. This results in either their visions failing to inspire or their warnings going unheeded. This turns their passion into frustration, unless they understand that if they want to see change in the world, they must first change themselves. When my wife and I were about to have our first child, my father-in-law shared with me a lesson he learned as a new father. He said, "Steve, if I wanted my children to change, I needed to change first." When we have a vision that is not immediately embraced, it's not necessarily that folks are rejecting the message or even the messenger. It may simply be that we have not compelled them enough to take the journey with us. So I've identified 3 key areas of focus that a visionary needs in order to lead a movement of change: communication, co-creation, and culture. When I first started my career as a communicator, I learned that it's not what's taught, but what's caught that's most important. It doesn't matter how genius the idea is in my head, if I am not able to articulate it in such a clear way that people understand, embrace, and are persuaded into action. Otherwise, I have failed. Many visionaries see things clearly in their heads, but the clarity all but disappears when it leaves their lips. We're not always going to get the message right the very first time. When people push back on our message, we have to be humble enough to ask questions. Sometimes people just need time to process it. So with empathy and vulnerability, we may discover that we just need to say things differently. No one wants a dictator who mandates people into compliance. Instead, communicate like an evangelist who persuades people into the enlisting into a movement. Now, this visionary must also make the transition from being an architect of vision to becoming a facilitator of vision. This requires the skill of co-creation. Now, early in the days of a movement, the visionary should act as the architect, one who sees and communicates the vision and models the behavior for others to emulate. However, as the movement matures, the visionary will no longer possess the ability to understand all that is needed to make the vision come to pass. An enlightened leader is one who understands that the greatest insights and ideas already exist within the ranks of the company. She may have the vision that determines the direction of the organization, but if she can tap into the collective genius, the co-creative strength of the employees, they will be far more engaged and will achieve even greater results. Now, let's talk about culture. One of my all-time favorite quotes comes from Winston Churchill, who once declared, "We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us." I believe the same can be said of a company's culture. Culture can be shaped by the behavioral, by the structural, and the physical environments of an organization. Anytime you disrupt the beliefs and norms, you discover what works and frankly what doesn't work as well. Even in the healthiest of cultures, as an organization begins to scale, its culture will also need to evolve. As Marshall Goldsmith once wrote, what got you here won't get you there. And when it comes to change, many experience fears, but the most powerful emotion that is experienced is actually loss. The loss of control, the loss of familiarity, and the loss maybe even of pride. But the greatest of leaders will use communication and co-creation to shape culture in strategic and organic ways. This will invite both leaders and employees to join and take ownership on what things will look like moving forward. I have always said that the frustrated are often the most optimistic because they believe that the future will be better. They just wish it would hurry up. If visionaries want to take people on a journey of transformation, they must first be willing to take the journey themselves, even if at first it's by themselves. As a fellow frustrated visionary, I invite you to join me on this quest, not only of self-discovery, but to discovering a better world.